Are you tired of the fucking pharmaceutical industry promising you a cure for depression that never fucking delivers, and then you end up either self-medicating yourself or taking their pill for the rest of their life just to feel a little less shitty? Stick around. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some things you can try, not guaranteeing shit, to fix your fucking depression and shit. If you look around the world, tons of motherfuckers are depressed. They're self-medicating. They're doing all kinds of addictive behaviors to escape their life. And they generally are miserable most of the time. Occasionally they get a little manic and their whole, outlook changes. But for the most part, they fall into despair. So today I want to talk about some of the things I've done. I've self-experimented with nutrition to specifically treat my depression issues. And I want to kind of share that with you in case it's something you are interested in trying for yourself. I'm not offering any guarantees. I'm not saying this works for everyone. I will give you what made me try these things, and my conclusions are based on my own experience. So take that as you will. I am not a doctor. I am not a psychiatrist. I'm not a fucking expert. I'm not I am an asshole. But I am not qualified to treat your depression. This is just something, if you're at your wit's end and you're tired of those soul-crushing despair moments, that maybe you can try as an alternative to going down to the bar and getting shit-faced, or shooting up with heroin and meth or whatever the hell, that is going on out there. So many people, I watched a documentary last night, and it's really bringing to light just how many people die because they're depressed, essentially. I watched Seattle is Dying, a news story that really highlights the drug epidemic. They're calling it a homeless epidemic, but it's a drug epidemic that is destroying them, and people are ODing at alarming rates. It's happening here where I live. It's happening in cities across the country as people are, trying to escape or treat their depression, which leads to addiction, which leads to the physical addiction involved in some of these substances. And ultimately, it doesn't solve the issue. You're just as depressed. You just don't fucking know, you can't even control yourself in some of these cases. You lose yourself in these substances and in these activities that you're just doing because you can't cope with reality or the things that are going on in your life efficiently. And it's just alarming how many people are suffering health-wise for this, how many people are essentially dying. There's people that won't leave the standard American diet because they need that pleasure of those highly addictive, pleasurable, tasting great foods that are destroying their long-term health. And they do it to try and treat their depression and anxiety issues, but it's doing the opposite. Yeah, you get that momentary pleasure, but you're still depressed. And I speak from experience on this. You're still depressed. You still have anxiety. It's just you're saying, well, life sucks. I'm sad as shit. Everything's fucking, the world just is a piece of shit, but at least I have this slice of pizza. Or at least I have this bottle of fucking rum. Or at least I have this weed. Or at least I have this meth. Or at least I have this heroin or fentanyl and all this other, shit. And some people, that's, and The tragedy is these are all unsustainable models for happiness because they destroy your physical health. They can kill you, including alcohol. You know, you get fucking blackout drunk and get behind the wheel of the car and you fucking die, or even take somebody out with you. These are all things that you should think about, that are consequences of trying to get happy or relieve stress, anxiety, and depression with a substance, period. So, you know, I've tried a lot of, you know, obviously I'd never tried heroin or all of that, you know, and nothing really super hardcore. But I've self-medicated throughout my life, mainly with alcohol. Alcohol was the go-to, because I couldn't do anything else. I was military, truck driver, all of that shit, you know, and I probably would have been fucked had it not been for that. I probably might not even be here today because of some of the stupidity that I was involved with in my earlier years. And it was all because of severe depression. So, in order to cure your depression, we have to first make sure that you're actually suffering from depression. Feeling sad because something bad happens is not quite what I'm talking about here. And if you're suffering from depression, you'll know that, well, you might not even know the difference. You might just think your life is miserable and that's why you're depressed. But there's actual, you know, you're able to cope properly if you're healthy with stressors and things that could otherwise you would see as soul crushing. And I'm not saying this works for everybody. It's just in my case, you know, some people have severe trauma and severe psychological things that can further, you know, exacerbate the issue. But I'm just thinking of things that you can try that maybe help or provide some relief, or maybe just make it so it's not quite as bad. And the way I stumbled onto this was when I went keto. I went from these really 2 to 3 week long, soul crushing, lay in bed, tears, pain, you know, just pure despair, nonstop, constantly. I went from that to feeling a little low, like mildly bummed. And the deeper I went into the ketogenic diet, I started to notice that. I was like, you know, I haven't fucking had one of those lay in bed depressions in a while. And then I learned that, yes, keto helped, and anxiety went away completely with keto, which is interesting. But the depression cycle for me kept going. And I would have kind of some manic side, too. Like, I'd have unusual, elevated mood in spite of no change in my circumstances. And that's the key for me in identifying it as a depression, is there's days that should otherwise be fine or just mundane you know, and I would end up in these little circle in the drain modes, and eventually land in the drain and get flushed out into the fucking polluted lake somewhere. You know, that's kind of my cycle of depression, and I endured it for years, and I self-medicated with alcohol for years, and it was fucking horrible. It was like a downward spiral. Well, I'm talking about my experience here and the things I've done to essentially what I feel I'm almost confident enough to call it a cure for my depression. And I'm not 100% positive that I'm cured. And I don't mean cured, I mean more like remission. It's more like I know what to do now to prevent myself from falling into these despair, soul-crushing depressions. Now, so here's my experience with the not being depressed, how I know I'm not depressed. See, before, something bad would happen, and I would be, you know, I would fall into this soul-crushing depression, despair, misery, low energy, no will to do anything, and that would last long period of time, as in days, 3-4 days minimum, to sometimes weeks or even a month. And it would just suck horribly. And even though it was just one event that triggered it, I would go through a huge amount of time of being miserable and ruminating about it, and constantly just reliving the thing that made me depressed to begin with. And then I've experienced it where something similar happened that I should cause me to be just as miserable as before. Sometimes the same exact thing that caused a depression before has happened to me again, and I experience maybe a half hour to an hour, depending on the severity of the negative event, of a little bit of bummed, or, it nowhere near the deep level of despair that I used to experience. And then it goes away. Like within, I think the longest where something bad's happened or something I'm upset about has happened and I was bummed out about it has been maybe an hour, 2 hours max, I think. And that's quite the contrast from days on end of depression. And that's without self-medicating or doing anything. I recover quickly, and that's what I believe your body is supposed to do. When you're healthy, you're supposed to be able to cope with stress, anxiety, sadness. All of these emotions are supposed to be you're supposed to be able to process them efficiently so that you can survive and function to continue to live. And I think that we're built to do that, but we've fucked that up. And I believe the causes of our nutritional depression stem from our standard American diet destroying our gut health, because a lot of the brain neurotransmitters that you use start with your gut health, and breaking down certain things and providing the precursors for serotonin, dopamine. These are all things that you need, and melatonin, to have good emotional health and good psychiatric health, in my opinion. And if you're deficient in these things, you will feel depressed. Inflammation is also linked to depression. So if your stuff's getting into your blood and causing lots of inflammation, or you're eating a highly processed food diet, you're just going to get inflamed from that, particularly in the liver. And this can contribute to depression symptoms. And there's been studies that have shown this link. So, building on the research I've done is how I decided to try and figure out this issue, because it's kind of the last health issue I've had to deal with. I look around me and I see all of these people. They're going to fast food places. They're drinking soda. They're eating lots of pasta. They're eating all of these foods that are unhealthy. They're caking themselves with vegetable oil. They're becoming super inflamed. They're having to be in the healthcare system constantly, and they're constantly self-medicating, whether it's through substances or through various other addictive behaviors that provide a dopamine spike. And it could be as simple as being addicted to video games, social media, Facebook, that kind of stuff, or it could be as destructive as fentanyl or heroin, which is an epidemic right now. And there's some places in this country that have gone to complete shit because of that epidemic. And it's kind of preventable, I think, if you fix your nutrition. But that's a theory. It's not been proven. They haven't done a study of this that I'm aware of that links nutrition to depression. And I would love it if they started studying this. And I first stumbled onto this with the carnivore diet, and Amber O'Hearn saying that she cured her depression with the carnivore diet was probably the first thing. And then you had Michaela Peterson and Jordan Peterson speak out on it. And there's been tons of anecdotal evidence out there from other people that have tried carnivore and got the same thing. So I'm like, well, maybe that's what I need to do. And then I turned that as an elimination baseline, because I was almost there with keto in not feeling depressed. But I, went to the carnivore baseline. I usually do 30 days at the baseline before I reintroduce certain things. And I've tested out. And if I got depressed, I noted what non-carnivore food I brought in, because every time I've stayed carnivore, depression stay away. And right now, I'm not full carnivore, and we'll get into that by the end of the video. But, I am mostly carnivore most of the time. And I have not had a depression. And there's another significant thing I did, which I believe was a contributing factor to my depressions, and I've quit alcohol. I haven't had a drink in, I think it's been over a month. I don't know. I have to go back and look at the date when I announced it to you. But you can figure it out. Go check that video out and do the math of where I said, I think stop doing this to, be healthy or something. I don't remember. It's one of the videos I did about a month ago. But, I have not experienced anything close to a significant depression or even a downswing. Now, this isn't all roses, this isn't the end-all be-all, because I also don't get the manic highs, the really, really good moods that I used to get. And I think that's just me and my cycle that I used to have. I'm just kind of even keel. I watched Vegetable Police the other day, and he's talking about how he's dead inside, in terms of, and how he experienced depression while he was in Thailand. And I don't know what time frame he was discussing, but he was on a raw meat diet, so I don't know the issue there. So that's why I'm saying this might not work for everybody, and the only thing you can do is try it and see if it works for you. And I'd like to hear if you've already tried it and you've noticed your depression went away. Go ahead and tell your story in the comments, because other people read that and can benefit. And the more people share their experience, the more we can figure out exactly what the fuck is fucking us up in our diets that is leading to us being susceptible to depression. Because I can tell you, I cope with a lot of shit right now. And I'm fine. I don't let shit bring me down for more than a few hours, and it's not even requiring a lot of effort mentally on my part to accomplish this. And there's some other things I do to really kind of manage the things that could cause the depression, as far as life experiences, stress, and that kind of stuff. I try and mitigate some of that up front so that I'm not trying to cope with it on a biological level, which is depression. When depression, and to me, is essentially a failure to cope with your emotions. And I think anxiety is related for the same reason, because that went away sooner than the depression did for me. And it all went away with just being strict on my diet, not fucking up. And I can tell you, every time I have a grain-based standard American diet cheat day, I crush myself into a depression. I've done it on holidays. I think New Year's was a good example. When I went to St. Lucia, I hit a depression afterwards, and all I did there was mostly fresh foods, but I had some grain there, and that took me down too. So I've tested it both ways. I've removed all of the foods that were causing the depression, and the depression went away, and then I reintroduced them, and the depression returns almost on cue. And this is how you can figure it out. And it's really hard when you're in the midst of a depression, to put this effort in. So you might, wait till you get a break in the depression, if possible. And that's kind of where I'm at. I feel like I have control of my depression, and I did it without taking pills. Now, I've been on psychiatric meds in my younger days, and I didn't like it. It made me so much of a fucking zombie. I could have had a walk-on part in The Walking Dead. I'd just went up and to the casting director and said, "Hey, can I be a zombie?" And they'd be like, "Oh shit, we don't even got to do makeup on you. Come on in." It's that's kind of the thing with this is making sure that you can pull away from, because when you're depressed and they medicate you for it, you're on that meds indefinitely. They don't pull them off you. You're on that for the rest of your life. You're paying the pharmaceutical industry just to feel a little more normal. And sometimes it didn't even work. Now with me, I took Paxil, I think it was, and that's what turned me into a fucking zombie. And I felt nothing. And so I know what it's like to feel nothing. Like you barely have empathy for anybody. That's how bad the Paxil was. And thankfully, I don't think they prescribe that very often anymore. But, you know, some people are, I'm hearing rumblings in the carnivore community that there are people out here that are experiencing like this apathy thing where they don't really feel or react to shit. And, you know, it's anecdotal, but I can tell you my personal experience. Yes, my spectrum of emotion from high to low has narrowed on the carnivore diet, or even the ketovore, as I call it, you know, where I'm mostly carnivore with a few vegetable-based things here and there. And it's narrowed the spectrum. I don't get zippy yippee ki fucking happy when good shit happens either. You know, I'm just like, oh, that's cool. I'm stoked. Whereas, you know, I could be on cloud nine before, you know, when something positive happened or something exciting happened. Now when something good happens, I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's fucking cool. Yeah, great, good shit, you know. That's kind of how I can describe it. I still have emotions and I still, you know, I'm feeling just fine. It's not like I've become a sociopath or any of that shit. It's just the spectrum has changed. I've gone from the huge wide spectrum of, you know, high, low, down to this little narrow spectrum that's I stay in. And sometimes I dip outside the spectrum a little bit, but it doesn't last, you know, like I said before, it's like a couple hours max that I deal with these emotions. So, final question is, how the fuck did I do that? Well, the way I did that was I started out treating the fact that I was obese, pre-diabetic, blood pressure was starting to creep up. And I, you know, had no illusions back then, about 4 years ago, of going keto. You know, I did it for weight loss initially and to try and get my blood sugar under control. And then eventually I started learning a lot more about nutrition. And as I've researched and tested and self-experimented and heard anecdotes from subscribers or people that have watched my videos over the years, I was able to figure out certain things and test out certain things that got me to a point of pretty good fucking health right now. And so much so that I'm working out, and I hate working out. But I still, for some reason, I get my ass up. I'm going to be going to the fucking trainer here soon. But, you know, that wasn't me back then in the depression days. Going to the gym in the depression days, you'd have to fucking drag me in there. And, you know, I'm not doing as much distracting things. Like, I'm not constantly watching, like, Netflix and that kind of stuff. I'm usually learning. Like, I've been studying really hard for my video work right now. So I'm doing a lot of different things to enhance my skills and knowledge, and spending less time doing past the time activities such as video games and movies. Like I got dragged to one movie in the past 2 or 3 months. It was Captain Marvel, and I didn't really want to watch it, but I went anyway because I'm a good friend and shit. But, you know, I went and I didn't do that. I did that more to be a good friend than because I wanted to go see a movie or I needed to escape reality for a few minutes. Occasionally, I like to play a video game and do that, but I am just so driven to further my business right now, to further my skill set right now, that when I get a little bit of free time, I'm often fucking with the camera, testing things out, running tutorials, testing new setups out for the channel, and you know, and I enjoy that. I'm actually getting fulfillment out of that. It's not an escape, it's being productive, and I don't know, it provides a certain level of fulfillment, and I believe that's a contributing factor to why I'm not depressed anymore. And I think if I were doing more dopamine-driven addictive activities, my depression levels would be my spectrum would widen. But I was doing some of that stuff when I first started experimenting with the carnivore diet, and I still got pretty level. But I do believe the number one variable that really is singed it, and might be the reason why I've been able to reintroduce some plant foods without depressing myself, is eliminating alcohol. And I'm really surprised that maybe that might be one of the key variables that I took out. So I started out with keto and fat adapted, and I've been fat adapted for almost 3 years now. And I was doing keto before, but I was bouncing in and out and doing all that. So I don't really count that first year. And then when I first started out, I was intermittent fasting mainly with the standard American diet, and that was kind of shitty too. And did not, by the way, fasting with standard American diet did nothing for my depression and anxiety. In fact, if I had to say anything, it probably made it worse. And it showed. It affected my personal life in a very profound way back at that time period. Whereas now I'm laid back. I'm not even trying to seek out, like a lot of people are trying to find happiness in relationships and stuff like that. And, I've got my friends, and I'm not like lusting after or trying to date or constantly looking to get out in the dating world, probably because I'm content enough right now. There's moments where I wish I had a ride or die here or there, but for the most part, I'm fairly content on my own at this point. Simply probably because I'm not trying to find a cure for my depression anymore. And I do believe I looked to relationships in an addictive way and I've been with significant others that have done the same thing, to try and find some kind of joy in my life. And most of the time I found suffering instead of joy, but it is what it is. I thought that, people in relationships seem happy, so why don't I just be in a fucking relationship that'd make me happy? And now that I've done it nutritionally and I'm like feeling in that little narrower spectrum, I'm like, well, if I'm in a relationship, that's cool. We'll see how. And I wonder if that would be a hindrance, that I'm not all woo, or I'm not, deeply affected by negative things, or when your significant other's angry at you or some shit, that used to send me off the rails into depression. Like if you have a fight and stuff like that, I wonder how I would function now. I haven't been in a relationship really deeply that when I'm in this narrow spectrum, so I haven't really tested some of the extremes that have driven me to severe depressions in the past. But that's not to say shit isn't going to happen at some point that will put it to the test. But I can tell you right now, with daily life, with minimal things, there are things that suck in my life. There are things that have been bad that have happened, like breaking my phone and costing a lot of money would have put me in a depression in the past, because I've done it before and I know. Whereas now I was just like, I didn't really skip a beat. I got the phone replaced. It cost me a pretty penny, and now I'm doing fine. I'm doing all right. And, I can't promise this will work for everybody. And I don't think you should just jump straight from standard American diet to a carnivore diet to try and cure your depression, because you need to get over your food addictions first. So I would gradually ease into it by going keto first. And you'll notice progress just by doing that. You'll notice emotional stability will improve, your anxiety will improve, but you won't get there with just a keto diet, because there's still things in the keto diet that can cause inflammation, especially if you have leaky gut or gut health issues. You just won't fix it that way. So, and then after you're fat adapted, you've done, I would say, 6 months, at least, to really get keto adapted. And that's without cheats and without having your fucking bread and pasta and all of that shit. Because if you did 6 months, you're beyond. It's not just for fat adaptation. It's also to unaddict from these foods. And it took me 6 to 8 months to really lose my cravings and addictions for grain or pasta or sugar. Sugar I got rid of a lot easier because there's things, sweeteners you can use on a ketogenic diet that allow you to have sweet in your life without destroying your liver in the process. So I'm hoping that I get to keep giving you good results here. Also, for what I eat on, I mentioned I would go into what I do on my diet. I mainly am carnivore, like 90% of the time. Once a week, I have low carb Rao's pizza sauce mixed in with some ground beef and some processed mozzarella cheese. I know. But, it's not healthy, but it's a treat once a week that takes me outside the bounds of just eating ribeyes and eggs all the time. And, there's, I do chicken wings, sometimes vegetable oil fried if I eat out. And I do bloat from that, so I know that that's causing, but I haven't experienced a depression with just the wings, as long as there's no sugar being snuck to me in that case. And I do that maybe once every other week. Of course, drink lots of coffee. That's the one dopamine thing that I've never given up and probably never will. So that's the plant-based thing. Other than that, like I had maybe a salad once in the past couple months that I've had, some vegetable in my life. And I didn't really experience a depression from that, but I think if I consistently did it, that might bring me back into that keto spectrum, which widens that gap where I can go up and down in a little bit more. And it's just a matter of your personal preference. How, some people don't like this narrow window. I just think for me, it was the greatest relief from the constant despair and misery, with minor little breaks of happy as shit in between. I would give up those highs and the alcohol and the bread and the sugar to never experience those lows. And that is how I'm able to sustain my diet, honestly. I don't want to go back to that. If I can stay the fuck away from that level of depression and that level of despair, I'm going to do what it takes nutritionally. I don't care if it somehow they fucking CNN posts the latest fucking your vagina stinks fucking epidemiology study for everybody to fucking look at, and say, oh, you're going to die from this, and this, long term. How many drugs in the healthcare and pharmaceutical industry have dramatic side effects? Somebody ran a commercial the other day for Stellaris, and the commercial was, I think it was meant to talk shit about Stellaris, but it was a list. There was no voice, there was no nothing. It was on YouTube, and it was just the list of possible harmful side effects of fucking Stellaris. And I'm like, that is brilliant, because you read it and it's like just negative. You might die, you might fucking have inflammation, you might have this, you might have that. Please consult your doctor if you experience this. And it was horrible list of things that it does to you. And yet they're prescribing that to treat something. I don't know what Stellaris is supposed to treat, but I'm sure it ain't worth all of that. And that's a lot of the pharmaceutical industry. You're trading one health problem for another in many cases. It's just a question of, which to eat. And from what I've seen and experienced after 4 years of keto, carnivore, the jury's still out long term. I'm pretty confident that you can go at least 10 years. And if I have to bounce in and out, I'll bounce in and out. But I think long term, based on our history, human history, you can still thrive on a all meat based diet, and there's evidence of that in history, with the Inuit and so on and so forth. And there could be some arguing about genetics and environment and all of that in terms of your ability to thrive on a ketogenic or on a carnivore diet. But for me, I'm probably going to remain mostly carnivore for the rest of my life, simply because I'm noticing this. I might test the water. I'm not saying I won't have a keto cheat day every now and then. I won't say I won't have. I can't possibly say I'll never touch alcohol again either, but I'm going to be very hesitant. And I know from my experience of quitting sugar that every time I dipped my toe back in, I felt horrible. And I wonder if one of the reasons I drank on keto that caused me to, which may be why keto didn't do it all. So I don't know. There was that variable of alcohol in my ketogenic diet. So I haven't tested the theory by reintroducing alcohol and keeping the diet the same and seeing if my depressions return. But it's been my experience that when I did carnivore and I drank alcohol, that I didn't get depressed then either. It's only when I would reintroduce plant things that I was having problems. So we'll see. And my next experiment, I'm going to be bringing nuts back into my diet just to see what happens. And if I experience a depression or any other symptoms from that, then I will know that I can't eat nuts. So there's that. And there's a question of am I healing shit during this time? And, that's that. So basically, my diet includes meat, eggs, occasionally tomato sauce, occasional cold cuts that are processed meats, lots of butter. I use butter like a motherfucker. Lots of organic heavy cream whenever possible without emulsifiers or carrageenan in it. I find I have a bad reaction to carrageenan or emulsifiers. It sends me to the bowl. Whereas if I have the organic stuff, no problems whatsoever. And I have to go to the gym. I'll film the outro later. So what the fuck do I know? Because I'm not an expert. I'm just a fucking asshole. I hope I gave you some ideas because living with depression is difficult, and I did it for so many years. And there's so many people who get lost to this issue, and you can't get beyond it. And I'm not here to say that this is an easy solution. You got a lot to overcome to get to a point where you can do this nutritionally. It's going to be, someone who's very depressed is not going to easily be able to divorce themselves from these addictions, especially if they're self-medicating with them. I've self-medicated with them plenty myself, so I'm just trying to this is kind of the last health hurdle for me is getting my mental health under control and making my overall lifestyle improve to a point. So it's not perfect. I wish I could say that I had the answer for everyone. I'm just saying it worked for me. It might work for you, and there's absolutely zero harm in trying this, in my opinion. I don't see any negative health consequences over the 4 years that I did keto, and over the past 6-7 months I've been experimenting with carnivore, on and off, and now ketovore for a while now. I would say that overall I feel good. I'm in the gym. I'm working hard. I'm making strength gains. Just got back from the gym in the middle of, I was filming this video, then I went and fucking worked out, and now I'm back. And I'm making strength gains, progress. Now I'm not like a world class fucking bodybuilder or anything like that. I'm trying to just be a little more in shape physically for the coming hiking season, and also I'm doing the mountain bike thing too, so I need to not suck as much. But cardio's not my thing so much as I need the endurance and resistance training to be able to carry the heavy pack, and not feel like I'm going to drop dead. Since I started working out, my recovery has gone from 3 days of recovery to now I feel pretty okay the next day. I feel like I'm to the point now where if I wanted to, and I kind of don't want to, but I probably will at some point, I could probably strength train every other day. I don't know if there's a benefit to that growing muscle, but that's just a quick update with me. My weight is still at like the 203 to 205 range. I'm hovering in that range since I overeat as much as I can. I try and feed myself extra protein, extra fat calories, and I really, on the days I work out and usually the day after, I try and make an effort to eat more often to give me the protein and the insulin that I need to stimulate muscle growth. So, and I'm trying to get some gains. But, I'm not going to be a big ripped motherfucker ever, I don't think. I don't even know if it's possible in my 40s to get ripped. But I do, I feel good about what I'm doing in the gym right now. And, I wouldn't go as far as to say I enjoy my time in there, but I do like the feeling I get while I'm working out and mostly afterwards, that feeling of, you're all pumped up and shit. I kind of enjoy that. So there's definitely a little bit of dopamine in that activity, which could fill in the gap. Now, one last thing I wanted to touch on with this depression thing, and you're likely dealing with some kind of addiction to go along with that because you're trying to solve the depression issue. Addiction transfer, I've gone over it in the past. You just got to find something that is more productive to be addicted to, or that doesn't have as negative health consequences nutritionally at the very least, but overall health in general. There's other things that are addictive to do that fulfill your dopamine requirement to feel good. And I'm not saying that by doing this and getting rid of your depression that you're not going to be prone to that dopamine cycle, but I will say it is less, demanding. Since I've quit drinking, I've had zero desire to drink. Even though I work in a bar, I hang out with my friends there. I drink coffee and water, and I have a good time, and I haven't been tempted at all yet. And it's really interesting, and it correlates around the time I started hitting the gym. So maybe I replaced my alcohol addiction with exercise, because a lot of people do get addicted to going to the gym. It does have a dopamine and an endorphin response that causes pleasure, just not cardio. I don't ever get endorphins from cardio. I don't know why people run as much as they fucking do, but I only seem to get that feeling from resistance training. Cardio just feels like punishment to me. I don't even feel great after cardio. I just want it to be over most of the time. I'm still not a fucking cardio guy, But then again, I'm not a fucking gym guy either. So there's that. So, be a fucking gym guy. A friend of mine came up with that. That's not my quote. If you found this video enlightening or entertaining and you want me to make more videos, please head to ScottTheTruckDriver.com and leave a tip in the virtual tip jar. I am aware I didn't put a video out on this channel last week. I did, however, put 2 videos out on my other channel, Scott the Photographer. So if you're jonesing for some shit from me and I didn't deliver on this channel, there's 2 other places you can go. You can head to Scott the Photographer and check out my videos there. I'm enjoying making those, so I'm going to be spending time doing that. And it may take a little bit away from the amount of videos I put on this channel. I'm generally going for 1 a week here, maybe 2 a week if I feel ambitious, or if I'm not busy with clients. I have picked up a lot of client work. And a short film I'm working on. So I've been very busy, which is one of the reasons I didn't get a video out on this channel last week. But, these are all things that could take a back seat if I was able to make a living doing just YouTube. So every contribution you do helps me be able to set aside the time where I don't have to go elsewhere and make money. Like I have to work at the bar tonight, I have to work at the bar tomorrow. There's things that I do to fill in the gaps to survive, and so I appreciate those of you who have been contributing and continue to contribute on a monthly basis. Actually, it seems like y'all around the first of the month come and really kick it in, and I thank you for that. And if you're still jonesing for more content, I do have hours upon hours of podcasts for sale on my website. 2 hours each. That's if 2 hours isn't enough content for you for the week, I don't know what else to give you. I will be doing another podcast probably the same day that you see this video. This will be coming out on Friday, so you can probably head later on in the evening to ScottTheTruckDriver.com and download my latest podcast. Haven't picked a subject yet. I'll figure that out by tomorrow. And listen to more of my shit that way. Or there's 2 more ways you can help me out too. You can like and subscribe, comment, share, do all of that shit. That's 4 things. Sometimes I can count. Just not today. Or down below the video, I'm going to start posting at least one affiliate link probably to whatever camera I'm filming with or something like that. But if you wanted to support the channel, you can just click that link. And even if you don't want to buy what that link is, you can still shop around on Amazon and do your normal Amazon shopping, buy whatever the hell you would normally buy. And without any cost to you, you would be helping the channel out through using those links to do your shopping. So I'm going to start making sure from here forward that all my videos have that Amazon affiliate link. And if you're going to buy shit anyway, why not click that link, and then you could help support the channel with the only effort being clicking that link. So that helps a lot. So these are all ways you can support this channel and allow me to spend time making more videos. That being said, I do have a pretty big video client coming up, and I'm working on another client's video right now. So I'm kind of pretty busy. So I'll do the best I can to get videos out. I'm trying to work on some workflow stuff. And I might be doing a little bit of a format change to these videos going forward. I couldn't do it today because it's fucking raining. But I do plan on upping my documentary style game. And you'll probably start seeing those pop up here on this channel in addition to the normal talking head shit and so on and so forth. Also, around the first week of the month, there'll be a live stream at some point. So that was a lot of shit that I updated you, and I promise to try and get a video out. I might try and film something over the weekend too if I get some time to myself. But if not, I'll try and hit it pretty hard next week when I'm in between shit. So, I hope you're not depressed. And for those of you who are depressed, talk to people. Get good friends. Put yourself in situations. Get out in nature. That always works for me too. Stepping away from the things that are stressing and depressing you can work miracles. It's one of the reasons I wilderness fast, is you get out there and you're away from all the bullshit, all of it. And you can't get no cell signal. Even if you brought your phone because you're that addicted to it, you're not getting a cell signal, so it don't matter. You're just going to stare at whatever is saved on your phone, and that's it. And I can tell you that a lot of my soul searching over the past couple, year and a half or so, ever since I quit trucking, a lot of it, well, even while I was still trucking, a lot of my thoughts on mental health and really figuring this stuff out happened out there on the trail or in nature, away from all the bullshit that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So hope that helps or something. Have a nice motherfucking day and shit. And no, I'm not dead inside. Look at me. I got life. Carnivore doesn't make you fucking suck at feeling shit. It just turns the volume down and shit. Although sometimes a mute button would be fucking nice.